and it's story time today. Are you excited to hear about the lost legends of the ancient Kashmir that once was? Today's story is being told by a grandmother to her grandchildren who had traveled to Kashmir when she was a little girl. In fact, she loved stories, so somebody gifted her a very ancient book, a copy of a book called Rajata Rangini, written by the historian and poet. It's a very famous book. Let's hear the amazing stories of Kashmir dating back to thousands of years, and let's see all the secrets it unveils. Gather around, children, for this is no ordinary story. Our story begins with Rishi Kashyap. He was a wise sage, one of the Saptarishis. Saptarishis are said to be the 7 chosen ones who were given immense knowledge, wisdom, and power by the gods themselves. Kashyap lived in a simple ashram, a little hut made of wooden straw near the banks of the sacred river Ganga, high in the Himalayas. He spent his life traveling across the earth, helping people and animals wherever he went. They say he was born from the head of Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, and his heart was as big as the sky itself. Rishi Kashyap had many children, some say even the gods and the Nagas. In fact, if you remember in our previous story, the Vaman avatar of Lord Vishnu was born to Rishi Kashyap and his wife Aditi. He loved all living things, but he had a special dream to create a perfect home for people, a place where they could live in peace, surrounded by beauty. And for that, he traveled far and wide, searching for the right spot. But when unable to do so, he prayed to the gods. First to Lord Brahma, who is considered his father. He said, "O Brahma, giver of wisdom, show me the path to create a paradise." Brahma blessed him with a vision of a shimmering lake. Next, Kashyap prayed to Lord Indra, the king of the heavens, who rode a white elephant named Airavat and carried a thunderbolt called Vajra. "O Indra, Lord of strength," Kashyap said, "give me the power to shape this land." Indra sent a gentle rain to guide Kashyap to the Himalayas. Finally, Kashyap prayed to Devi Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, who played a sweet melody on her veena, her white swan beside her. "O Saraswati, mother of inspiration," he pleaded, "fill my heart with ideas to make this valley perfect." Saraswati ji smiled and whispered ideas into his mind, filling him with hope. One day, as he stood on a snowy peak in the Himalayas, guided by the gods' blessings, Kashyap looked down and saw a giant shimmering lake called Satisar. It was so big you couldn't see the other side, and its waters sparkled like a mirror under the Himalayan sun. But the lake was guarded by the fierce Nagas, and no one could live there. According to the Nilamata Purana, which I read when I was learning about Kashmir, Kashyap parted the waters of the Satisar lake to create the valley. So Kashyap raised his staff, which glowed like the sun, and with a burst of magic, the waters of Satisar parted. The lake drained away, and in its place rose a breathtaking valley, green meadows, snowy mountains, and golden chinar trees everywhere. The Nagas clapped and cheered, their scaly tails shimmering with joy. The Nilmata Purana says this magical moment marked the birth of Kashmir. Now you might be wondering how this beautiful valley got its name. Well, it's said that after Rishi Kashyap parted the waters of Satisar, the Nagas, who were his friends, cheered and said, "This land should be called Kashyapa Mir." In their ancient language, Mir meant a big body of water, like a lake or a sea. Over time, Kashyapa Mir became Kashmir, a name that means the land of Kashyap's lake. Isn't that a beautiful name for such a magical place? But a valley needs water to live in, doesn't it? So now let me tell you a secret about where the rivers of Kashmir came from. Rishi Kashyap meditated upon mighty Parvati, Chandra, Vishnu and Shiva for this. The gods heard his plea. Parvati Ma opened the Amrit Kalash and outpoured the first river Vitasta. She said that Vitasta will be the mother of this valley, nurturing its people with her gentle waters. And because the Amrit Kalash had touched her, Vitasta's waters were extra special. They could make the flowers grow brighter, heal tired hearts, and even sing lullabies to children at night. Next, Lord Chandra, the moon god, stepped forward. Chandra, with his silver crown and a crescent moon glowing on his forehead, loved the way the Himalayan peaks glowed under the moonlight. He poured out his river, Chandrabhaga. Her waters shimmered with a silvery glow, like the moon itself, and she landed with a soft song promising to bring fertility to the fields. Chandra blessed her, saying, Chandrabhaga, your song will fill the hearts of Kashyapa Mir with peace. Then came Lord Vishnu, the protector of the world, who rests upon the serpent Shesha with a blue lotus in his one hand and a conch called Panchajanya in another. He wanted to give Kashmir a strong river to guard its borders. He poured out the mighty Sindhu. She roared as she fell from the sky, her waters fierce and powerful, landing near the sacred Kailash mountain. Vishnu's voice boomed, Sindhu, you will be the father of rivers, watching over this land like a brave guardian. Finally, Lord Shiva, who was watching from his snowy cave, added his own gift. Shiva, with his matted hair adorned with the crescent moon and sacred Ganga flowing from his locks, scooped up a handful of starlight and poured it into a tiny jar, creating the Vishoka River. She shimmered with a golden hue as she gently floated down, landing near the Amarnath cave where Shiva meditated. Little Vishoka, Shiva whispered, your pure waters will bring all those who come to me. And with that, Kashyapa Mir became alive. A younger child curiously asks, Grandma, are those rivers still there today? Grandma smiled and said, Yes, my little one, they are. The ancient rivers still flow through Kashmir, just as they did long ago. But over time, people started calling them by new names. Vitasta, the sparkling river that Parvati poured from her Amrit Kalash, is now called Jhelum River. You can see her winding through Srinagar, still nurturing the valley with her gentle waters. Chandrabhaga, the silvery river blessed by the moon god Chandra, is known as the Chenab River today, and she still sings her peaceful songs as she flows through the mountains. The mighty Sindhu, Vishnu's gift, is called the Indus River now, and she's one of the biggest rivers in the world, still guarding the land like a brave father. And little Vishoka, Shiva's golden river, is called the Vishav River, still shimmering near the Amarnath cave, blessing all those who visit.
What happened next, Grandma? What happened after the rivers were formed?
Deep in the snowy mountains near the Vishoka or Vishav River, there was a cave called Amarnath. Inside, a magical eye statue, a lingam, glowed with a soft blue light. It was made by Lord Shiva himself, the god of mountains. Shiva would sit in that cave meditating under a crescent moon with his heart full of peace. The golden Vishav river flowed nearby, her waters so pure that people would dip their hands in them for blessings. They say if you listen closely, you can still hear Shiva's whispers in the wind there. The Shiv Purana, another ancient book, tells us that the Amarnath cave has been a sacred place for a very long time. Even today, thousands of people visit the Amarnath cave every year. They go on a very special journey called the Amarnath Yatra.
What other magical places came to be in Kashyapa Mir?
Oh, so many wonderful places, my dear. Once the rivers brought life to the valley, ancient Kashyapa Mir bloomed with magical spots. Like near the Jhelum River on a hill overlooking the valley, the Martanda Sun Temple rose up to honor Surya, the sun god. It was built by a wise king named Lalitaditya, as written in the Rajata Rangini. Back then, it was called Martanda, and it was one of the biggest temples in the land. The temple's stone walls were carved with pictures of Surya smiling, and its arches looking like doorways to the sky. It glowed golden at sunrise, and people would come from faraway lands just to see it. Near the temple, they found colorful tiles with lotus flowers left by ancient Buddhists who lived in Kashmir too. The Jhelum River nearby was so happy to see the temple that she would sparkle even brighter. Today we can still see the ruins of this temple near the town of Anantnag. Not far away from here, a great city called Parihaspura came to be, which means the city of laughter. It was also built by King Lalitaditya. Parihaspura was a grand capital with tall palaces, monasteries for Buddhist monks, and even a giant stupa, a dome shaped structure for prayer. The city was so full of joy that children would run through its streets laughing and playing, while the Jhelum river's waters sparkled nearby, as if she was laughing too. Back then it was called Parihuspara, but today its ruins are simply known as Parihuspara near Srinagar, a reminder for its happy past. Then there was a sacred place called Shankaracharya Hill, right in the heart of Srinagar, overlooking the Jhelum River. Long ago, during the time of Emperor Ashoka, who spread Buddhism across the land, it's said that a great Buddhist monastery stood there. Later, a wise teacher named Adi Shankaracharya visited Kashmir and meditated on that very hill. He felt the blessings of Lord Shiva and the rivers, and he built a small shrine there to thank the gods. The hill became a place where people would go to pray and feel closer to the heavens. Another magical spot was the Avanti Swami temple near the banks of Jhelum. It was built by a king named Avanti Varman, who loved Lord Vishnu, the same god who gave us the Indus River. The temple had beautiful stone carvings of Vishnu resting on his serpent Shesha, and you can see such carvings all around Bharat. It was surrounded by the gardens where children would play. The Jhelum River flowed nearby, her waters reflecting the temple stones, making them shine like gold. Back then, it was called Avanti Swamin, and it was part of a larger town called Avantipura. Today, we can call it Avanti Swamin Temple, and its ruins are near a town now known as Avantipura, a name that evolved from Avantipura over time. And let's not forget the city of Srinagar itself. Long ago, it was called Suryanagar because it was believed to be blessed by Surya, the sun god. Over time, its name changed to Srinagar because it became a rich and beautiful place along the Jhelum River. Suryanagar was founded by King Pravarasena, who built it as a shining capital for its people according to the Rajata Rangini. But you might wonder why so many of these ancient places like Martanda Temple, Parihuspara, Avantiswamin are in ruins today. Well, my dears, over the centuries, Kashmir saw many changes. Long ago, invaders from faraway lands came to the valley, wanting its beauty and riches for themselves. One such invader, a ruler named Sikandar Booth-Shikan, ordered the destruction of many temples, like the Martanda Sun Temple, because he didn't believe in the same gods. His armies broke the beautiful stones and left the temples in ruins. Parihuspara too was abandoned during invasions, and people had to flee to safety, and its grand palaces crumbled over time. And today we still know about how magnificent these places were only because of these ancient writings. Had these ancient writings not existed by the wise poets and historians, we would not have known about them. That's how I learned so much about Kashmir, by reading these scriptures. The Rajata Rangini told me about the kings, the temples, and the rivers, while the Nilamata Purana shared the magical tales of how Kashmir was born, or Kashyapamir was born. Other ancient texts like the Shiva Purana taught me about the sacred places like the Amarnath cave. Travelers from faraway lands like the Chinese monk Xuanzang also wrote about Kashmir's beauty, describing its monasteries and temples in their diaries. Because of all these writings, we can imagine how magical these places once were, even if we can only see its ruins today. Reading these scriptures opened a whole new world to me, and now I can share that world with you. In fact, if you happen to go there, you can still visit these places. The Martanda Sun Temple's ruins are near Anantnag, open all year round, but the best time is from March to October, when the weather is warm and the skies are clear. Parihuspara's ruins are near Srinagar, and Avantiswamin temples and remains are in Avantipura, both visitable from March to October. Shankaracharya Hill has a temple on top, and people climb up to visit it all year round. especially in the summer from May to August, when the view of the valley and the Jhelum below is just breathtaking.
Grandma, what kind of people were they and what kind of festivals did they celebrate?
Long ago, the Kashmiri people loved to celebrate their rivers, and on a special day called Vitasta Divas, children would float lotus shaped lamps on the Jhelum River at night. The lamps glowed like tiny stars, bobbing on water as everyone sang songs to thank the river for her gifts. Also, along the Chenab, there was a festival called Chandramela, where people would dance under the moonlight, thanking the moon god Chandra for her silvery waters. The Indus River, so big and strong, had boat races where brave rowers would race down the rapids, cheering as they went. Just like in Kerala, right? And near the Vishav, by the Amarnath cave, pilgrims would gather to wash their faces in their golden waters, believing it would bring them closer to Shiva. In fact, these festivals are still celebrated in some way or the other.
Grandma, how do we know all this and in so much detail?
Yes, my darling, that's where the Rajata Rangini comes in, the book I showed you. It was written by a poet named Kalhana around 1148 CE. That's about 877 years ago. Kalhana was a very special man, born in Kashmir around 1100 CE, in a family of scholars. His father Champaka was a minister in the court of King Harsha of Kashmir, who ruled around 1089 to 1101 CE, so about 1000 years ago. Kalhana grew up surrounded by stories of kings, battles, and valleys' beauty. He loved to read old books and listen to the tales of the elders. And he had a deep love for his homeland. Kalhana was a poet at heart, but he was also a historian. He wanted to tell the truth about Kashmir's past, even the sad parts, so that the people would never forget. Modern historians agree that Kalhana wrote the Rajata Rangini just as the old records say, and they found coins and writings from King Harsha's time to prove it. What motivated Kalhana to write the Rajata Rangini was his desire to preserve Kashmir's history for the future. He saw many old stories were being forgotten, and he worried that the glory of his land, its kings, its temples, its rivers would fade away. He also wanted to teach people lessons from the past, showing how good kings brought peace and bad kings caused suffering. Kalhana spent years collecting stories, reading ancient records, and talking to wise men. He wrote it in Sanskrit, the language of the gods, and his words were like poetry, flowing like the Jhelum river itself. His work describes the Martanda Sun temple and its grandness. He wrote about Paraspora's palaces, the Avanti Swamin temple's shining stones, and how the Jhelum's banks were full of markets selling soft pashmina shawls, and how the Chenab carried boats to faraway lands. Rajata Rangini became so famous because it was the first book of its kind, a detailed history of a land written like a story. It's made up of 8 books called Tarangas, which means waves, because Kalhana wanted his history to flow like a river. It tells of great kings like Lalitaditya, who ruled long time ago, and Avantivarman. It also talks about rivers, temples, battles, and even the daily lives of people, like how they traded in markets, celebrated festivals, and built cities like Surinagar. Kalhana didn't just write about the good times. He also wrote about the wars, invasions, and mistakes of kings, like the troubles during King Harsha's time, so that the future generations could learn from them. And you know, Kalhana's book is still famous and read all around the world. Scholars in places like India, Europe, and America study it to learn about Kashmir's history. It has been translated in so many languages like English so that anyone can read it. Maybe you will too someday. And maybe just like Kalhana, you'll write your own stories or build something wonderful or help others. And just like Kalhana, I'm going to tell you about the storm that changed Kashyapa to Kashmir forever. Now, children, let me tell you a sadder part of Kashmir's tale when a great storm swept through its heart. Long ago, before the 1300s, Kashmir was a land of golden temples and quiet monasteries. Most people were Hindus praying to Lord Shiva with songs from the Vedas, or Buddhists meditating under the chinar trees. Their kings, like those Kalhana wrote about, built grand places like the Martanda Sun Temple, where the sun seemed to shine forever. It was a time of poetry and peace. But around the 1300s, new people started coming in. Raiders like Zulju took over the existing land, and the old kings also couldn't stop him from making the land grow weaker. Another one named Sikandar was like a thunderclap. He wanted everyone to follow his path, and he didn't want the old ways to stay. His men tore down grand temples like Martanda and Avantiswamin, smashing their stones until they crumbled. Monks left their monasteries, and many Hindus were told to change their prayers or leave. Some hid their sacred books, others fled to faraway hills, but many had to join the new ways to survive.
Did everything disappear, Grandma?
Not at all, dear. Kashmir's people were like chinar trees, bending but not breaking. Some Hindus, called Kashmiri Pandits, kept their prayers alive in secret, hiding in caves. The Buddhists also found new homes in Ladakh. It's like the long winter had just begun. From the 1500s, Mughal kings with grand gardens like Shalimar Bagh ruled Kashmir. They brought some peace, but the old temple stayed broken, and Pandits prayed quietly. In the 1700s, Afghan rulers came, harsh as winter winds, taxing people heavily and pushing some to flee. The valley grew wearer, like a garden longing for care. Then in 1819, a new wind blew. A Sikh king, Ranjit Singh, sent his warriors to drive the Afghans out, with the help of British traders far away, who wanted to shape the land's fate. The Sikhs brought order, easing taxes and letting Kashmiri Pandits serve in courts. But the grand temples remained in ruins, their stones whispering Kalhana's tales.
Did this fix everything, Grandma?
Not quite, dear. The Sikhs ruled until 1846, when the British, like a distant storm cloud, helped a Hindu king, Gulab Singh, take over. His family, the Dogras, ruled Kashmir under British eyes. But they started levying heavy taxes on people, and there was a lot of unrest. The British watched closely, caring more for their own plans than Kashmir's heart. By the 1930s, people grew restless, marching in Srinagar streets asking for a voice for all Muslims, Pandits, everyone.
What happened next, Grandma? Did they find their voice?
I wish. But in 1947, a great upheaval came. As the British were forced to leave India, it was split into two lands, India and Pakistan. Like a river dividing, Kashmir's king, Hari Singh, didn't know which part to choose. Most people in the valley were Muslims who wanted to join Pakistan, while Pandits and others looked to India. Then fierce raiders from Pakistan's land stormed in, burning towns and spreading fear. Hari Singh chose India, calling for help, and Indian soldiers came, fighting a war that split Kashmir in two. After a certain agreement, one part of Kashmir came to India, Jammu, and the other, Ladakh, went to Pakistan. Families were torn apart, some leaving their homes forever, and the Jhelum seemed to weep for its divided children.
This is really sad, Grandma. But what about now? It has been so many years since 1947. How is Kashmir now?
There are many storms happening in Kashmir still. However, the place is still very beautiful and still magical to look at. And we hope that one day, just as in Kalhana's stories, we will get to witness this beautiful place once again. And you, my dears, are part of that story, keeping its magic alive with every question you ask.
I wish I could see all those places in Kalhana stories, Grandma.
One day you will, my loves. One day you will see Kashyapa Mir or Kashmir, the valleys, the rivers, everything. And oh, now that you know the stories of these places, do share them with your friends and everyone when you go there. And maybe read Rajata Rangini now that it's available in English as well.